Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Today's episode, it's an honor to be joined by my good friend John Aitchison. John is a dedicated, driven, and passionate firefighter, and also a humanitarian. Today we're going to explore his long and extraordinary journey with the people of Nepal. From the devastation of the 2015 earthquakes, where he deployed as part of UK International Search and Rescue, to the creation of life-saving initiatives like Fire Aid Nepal, John has been a driving force in transforming disaster response in fire services in the Himalayan region. We'll discuss his experiences navigating the complexities of operating in remote areas like Lukla and the Everest Trail, the cultural and logistical challenges faced while building fire services in underserved communities like the Khumbu Valley through partnerships with Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. We'll discuss the barriers he and his team face delivering firefighting equipment and training whilst tackling issues like carbon monoxide poisoning and emergency trauma care in high altitude regions. I absolutely couldn't wait to have this conversation with John. I've been looking to get him on the podcast for a very long time. He is one of those silent heroes just out there getting it done. And he's not alone. He's a part of a massive team that do this incredible work. But I wanted to get this conversation out to the wider audience as a real demonstration about the power of humanitarian action, the sacrifices behind the scenes of so much of this great work, and the importance of building safer, stronger communities in some of the most remote corners of the world, where when they get devastated, there's no coming back from this sort of stuff unless someone like John and the team that he works with are willing to really do a heavy personal shift to make a massive difference. I know you're going to love this one. I'll see you on the other side. Someone will never love the thing as much as you love it, and that's a hard thing to get your head around. Why are you doing all of this? You've been doing it for so long now.
I was watching a film, I think it was actually on the way to Nepal, and I can't remember what the film was, but the quote in it was really good. The guy was doing the same. He was going back to, I think it was Afghanistan, to find somebody, and the quote was, the country's got a hook in me. And that resonated with me 100%. The country's got a hook in me. Nepal's got a hook in my soul. Ever since I was first deployed out there in 2015, and it pulls me back. That hook jags into me and pulls me back.
I can see you living out there one day.
Yeah, possibly.
I know you've got a young family and so many other commitments, and it is just such an enormous lift, resources, cognitive load, all of this sort of stuff. But like when it's something you're really passionate about, I know it's the old thing, you find something you love, you never work a day in your life, and that sort of aphorism porn that some people roll their eyes at. But I really feel for people that haven't got a passion. And I think a lot of people have that in the fire and rescue services sometimes when they get a little bit, disillusioned, or they have some challenges, or they have some setbacks, and they can become the negative firefighter. So take us back to 2015. What was the first time you ever set foot on there? What were you doing? This episode is brought to you in partnership with Godiva Limited. Godiva is one of the world's leading providers of specialist equipment for emergency services market. Renowned for innovation, quality and reliability, Godiva produces a comprehensive range of fire pumps, including vehicle-mounted, portable, and their cutting-edge integrated total water flow control system, SAMFlows. I've been using Godiva my entire career as a reliable pump on the fire ground. It is such a crucial element of a successful firefighting team that you want to empower your crews with the very best, reliable, quality product. Reach out to our partners by checking the notes in the podcast. Now back to the show.
Yeah, so first time I set foot in Kathmandu. Edit that bit out,
Leave it in.
The first time I set foot in Nepal was 2015, 25th of April. There was the two catastrophic earthquakes that hit the region. Mm-hmm. You and I are part of UKISR team. We're on call round the clock to deploy to any disaster that the UK government see fit to send us to. And in 2015, that was me. I get the shout. I was actually in BA at the time in training centre, and I was pulled out and got told call had come through from HQ to rendezvous. So got my stuff together, went up, got told there's been major earthquake and ISAR has been requested. So we all went down to London, rendezvoused there, and was briefed it's a goer, and we're sent out. British government deployed us. So the 70 odd strong team, including dogs, doctors, you name it. We flew out. It wasn't straightforward. It was anything but. We took a bit of time. Obviously, it's a big machine to get going. We got off the ground. We hovered over Kathmandu. We could see the houses. We got down low on a circling round, but we couldn't land because the airport was so busy with people trying to help. It was blocked, and we couldn't get it open. So we end up diverting to India, and we're stuck in the tarmac in India for about 7 or 8 hours before we were let off the plane to get refreshed, and we spent the night in India. And it was then the next day that we were able to fly on separate flights into the country. Highly frustrating. We didn't have half the kit that we had in our big jumbo jet because we were I think it was on Spice Air. Myself and like 4 or 5 of the guys get put on Spice Air with tourists that were literally disaster tourists. Sitting beside a lady with her sunglasses and her high heels, and a guy on the other side of me who had just raided a chemist and got loads and loads of drugs and said he was going to the country to help. And here's me sitting in my uniform saying, well, I'm part of the British, public's, efforts to come and actually do some good. Chaotic was understatement getting into the airport. A bit strange. Not the deployment that I envisaged happening from a first deployment. It was highly chaotic.
Why did it deviate from it? What was different?
What was that, mate?
What was different?
I just thought we'd all land as one team. We'd roll off the runway. It would be like an exercise, and we'd get to work, and there'd be bodies everywhere, and we'd be jumping into rescue folk. It was probably day 3 before we really got out and about on the ground with some taskings. It was late on, so by the time we got on the ground, there was very few rescues being done. Our taskings were more humanitarian, making structures safe, which is part of our role. I was latterly detached to the British Gurkha Rifles and sent into the Gurkha Valley, very remote places where we couldn't get helicopters. Logistics were really, really hard to come by. So travelling with a group of Gurkhas and a paramedic from our team, we went deep into the hills, and my tasking was to count the dead, count the living, and it's strange enough how many babies had been born since the earthquake and survived. By this time it was about a week in. Sort of babies, if they can survive past the first, second week, then it gives a good indication of how the communities are actually getting on, because little babies are quite weak and vulnerable, and if they're not able to survive and get nutrients, and if their mothers can't get water, then it can has an impact on them. So there's some information. I was taking GPS and reporting back on a regular basis, and the good thing was when we were coming out of that valley, that we did see aid trucks coming in. It was pretty hard going. My job, I'm used to going in to rescue people. Being in the fire service, what you do, you rock up and you pull somebody out of a car or a building that's on fire. This job I had was totally different. It was getting statistics, getting data, not really treating people, but moving on very, very quickly through village to village to village. Some villages been completely wiped out, nobody left, everybody dead. Move on to the next one. People wounded, but not able to stop and fix, because I was doing a wide area triage, having to move on to the next village and the next village, to a point where things became very numb, and the sight of a village completely wiped out and somebody telling me everybody was dead was starting to get to like the norm. So it was a highly strange experience, and like I say, not one that I was prepared for. And I came home with more questions than answers. and for really a sense of frustration of not being able to get out sooner, not being able to actually physically get my hands on rescues. Although the work that we did, don't get me wrong, did make a big change. We got a lot of aid in. We did support some buildings. There was a hospital that, operating theatres couldn't work until we secured the roof, and that was good, But it wasn't what I envisaged, and I came back really. I didn't feel any sense of achievement personally. I know the team did achieve, but I felt quite depressed actually when I came back.
Understandably so. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together. What was working with the Gurkhas like? Because they're, as an operating force, they're quite internationally renowned as some very resilient, some very resourceful, some very welcoming, some very highly trained individual. There's a lot of mentions of them in military books of very highly effective operators. I
loved working with them. I thought they were extremely efficient operators. They get in, they pushed me on. Being at that point, maybe a couple of years into the team, there was a point where I was wanting to stop and treat. And I had them pushing me forward for doing the most for the most, if you like. Fitness wise, they were absolutely on it. I was not struggling to keep up because I was pretty fit at the time, but I was pushed. I was pushed to the limit. We were moving up through what they call a jungle, really, really fast, moving from village to village on foot. These guys are ninjas, cracking lads. One of the times it really hit home to me about what was happening and the human effect was we got into a town called Birabesi, and one of the guys, we were showing some footage of some children that had died, some pictures, and one of the Gurkhas broke down, and everything became totally real to me. It was, I was in a bit of a whirlwind of, 1 minute I'm at home, 1 minute I'm in Nepal. It's not really real. But when you see somebody that's had like 5 tours of Afghanistan, Iraq, breaking down, then I was really hit me hard. And there's people dead here. People have died, children, adults. Families have been separated, and it wasn't until that point everything became crystal clear and really, really real, and it really, really hurt.
It's hard to quantify the level of sort of destruction that has on a community, because we do a thing, and I think we do it in the media a lot, where we look at it's like catastrophe porn. Like there's so much bad stuff going on in the world, and then tomorrow there's another story, and tomorrow there's another story. But when you think to yourself, in a really, really separated community like that, where they already struggle with resources and their economical ability to live and provide for themselves, when you start wiping out large groups of their population, large groups of generations, whether that be able-bodied working people, the elderly who are coaching, mentoring, passing down that generational knowledge, and even, like you say, the children. It's like you start cutting limbs off a community, isn't it? And it's like, how is this going to hop along for the next 20 years? Because we're going to leave in a few days and then just like move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That sums up a lot.
The long-term cost of that is enormous, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's a good point. We left, after week 2, we left and left them to it. Their lives continue, and their grief continues, and much of the area that we were in couldn't be re-inhabited because of the landslides. There was nothing left. The earth had gone. It was just down to bare rock, scree on the side of a hill, a big scar on the side of a hill. That was generations and generations that had lived there. Now they were displaced. There was nowhere to go back to. These people are wandering about, looking for somewhere to stay. What do you do when, and these villages are all family orientated. You're relying on your neighbour and your family. Everybody's gone. The whole village is gone. There's nothing left. The ground that you planted your crops on is gone. There's nothing there anymore. What do you do?
But I also think about that, like, in terms of if there was some sort of nuclear attack in some nations and stuff like that. Say if me and you, both of our families lived in a community together, just you and me, you and our families, and you and I got wiped out, and you were the guy that did all the electrics, and I was the guy that sorted out all the water. If there was a nuclear attack of some form, how many of us know how to make electric?
Yeah.
How many of us? Not very many.
Not many,
we might have a conceptual understanding of how it works. How many could I just get a plot tomorrow at my local, allotments and know how to grow all of my own food? Probably not, because I don't know how to do it. And that shrinking window of I need to eat and I don't know how to feed myself. Can I hunt? Have I got any transport? Does anybody here know how to fix a car? Do you know what I mean? Who here knows how to build a house? Well, that used to be Sam's job, or that used to be Sarah. You used to know how to do that, and they're dead now. Do you know what I mean? All of those, that's what I mean. It's not just the human as we see them as a singular life, which is, tragic in its sense of itself, but all of the stuff, the role that person played in the community, all of that is gone. So even the ones that survive, they're not all a carbon copy of each other, and you go, oh, well, that's okay. There's 10 of you left. Like, just build a house and, get back on your feet and you'll be fine. They don't know how to do it. Do you know what I mean? We're so, especially in the UK, we're so reliant on government now. I think most of us, you just killed the Wi-Fi. I think there'd be there'd be chaos in the streets. You know what I mean? If you knocked out the local electricity grid for 3 days, it would be absolute pandemonium. It'd be crazy. So I don't think, and I still, even though so many conversations we've had, and other people in similar roles, and lots of members of the ISR and everything like that, I still can't fully comprehend that. I don't think it's like a survival mechanism not to think about that sort of stuff too much, because you'd probably feel in a similar position to what you did when you came back. Like, what was it like coming back to the UK with all of your privilege? I mean, you're a normal watch manager. You're not living in a mansion, but all of the privileges that you don't realize you have. What was that kind of mental seesaw like?
Yeah. Hot shower, running water, TV.
Yeah.
It's I came back, and within 2 days I was back at my desk. I remember I came back and just staring at my computer screen going, what the fuck just happened? And then maybe somebody came into the office with some, coming in with some first world problems, and I'm just looking at them going, you serious right now?
I know. It's so hard. That's so hard. I'm not sure how we ever can mentally prepare people. Let's say we talk about UK ISR, but just anybody, NGOs and stuff like this. That's why I'm not sure it's entirely responsible when we have a lot of NGOs, and you'll know far more about these than I do. Like you said, the sort of term of disaster tourists, people going out there with the best of intentions, but sometimes I worry that we're causing more harm than good, sending some group out there.
Some well-meaning people do, and I think they're all well-meaning. Okay, some want their face on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, but everybody I've met is well-meaning, but a lot of them are very ill-prepared. At least with the ISR team,
that community, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, ISR team, we always go out with experienced people that have done it before, and we're well prepared. The kit we take out is phenomenal. The training we get is phenomenal, and the backing from the British government and the British military, you can't beat it. But then you get people that just, pack their bag, take some medicine and decide to go for it and become a casualty of the whole thing.
So when you come back, talk to me about that transition over the next few weeks, months, and how did this project get started?
So yeah, I came back and I was down in the dumps, really, really down in the dumps. Felt as if I wasn't used to my full capacity, and I think most folk felt the same, that we got out a bit late and a lot of logistical problems. None of it are our fault. It's just the way it happened. But this ate away at me. It didn't go away. I don't think it's ever actually gone away, and it led to quite a deep depression. But my way out of that, or way to cope, my coping mechanism was, well, I've got some skills. I can try and make this better. I can get myself back out. I can get some guys together that have got similar skills. We can maybe get some kit, and we can maybe go out and try and help make a difference. Because in Nepal, being in the fault line, these things happen again and again. It's going to happen. It is the sad fact about one of the most beautiful places in the world is also one of the most hazardous places in the world. Mm-hmm. So I pondered over this for a few weeks, and I got in touch with an old pal of mine, Steve Jordan from Operation Florian, mm-hmm. and just sounded him out for some advice, told him how I was feeling, and he says, right, I'll put you in touch with a lad from Devon who's been out there for a couple of years doing what you want to do, and you need to speak to him and get yourself out there. Now, I'd done work with Operation Florian since 2007, working in Macedonia, doing some capacity building, so taking equipment out to places that were needing it and doing the training. So I had the wherewithal and I had the experience to do it. So Steve put me in touch with a guy, John Monaghan, a retired officer from Devon, and we actually met at a Fire Aid conference. We got together and had a sit down, and from there on, the rest is history. John got me out. Within a few months, I was back in Nepal. I was giving him a hand with some capacity building out there on a fairly small scale. And then
how did that first trip logistically happen?
I just got some money together. I put my hand in my pocket, got my flight, and John was going out anyway to do his stuff, and we went out together. What's that, mate?
Did you have to take leave?
Took leave, took some time off work, and went across, and give John a hand with his project, what he was doing. We put our heads together and decided on making this a permanent sort of fixture. The two of us working together, and Devon and Scottish Fire and Rescue Service type thing working together. And it kind of went on from there. It's morphed over the last 10 years to me being project manager in charge of search and rescue in Nepal. I've taken in a lot of guys and girls that I worked with in Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, ISAR from down south, using a lot of firefighters from Devon in Somerset from John's Brigade, and it's morphed and grown into a really nice operation. We go out twice a year, and it's the project's called Fire Aid Nepal, and we have some NGOs underneath Fire Aid that are members that work really nicely together in their own little fields.
This episode is brought to you in partnership with MSA Safety. Today we have them to thank for the improved firefighter safety through connectivity in their brand new connected firefighter system. At the center of the connected firefighter platform is the MSA M1 SCBA with telemetry. That integrates straight in with the Luna system, which is a wireless all-in-one device creating an independent search and rescue network, providing edge detection, enhanced personal thermal imaging, while simplifying post-scene reporting and data retention. All of this then plugs into the FireGrid system for cloud-based connectivity, real-time information, and data-driven decisions for the incident commander. MSA are truly taking massive strides in the future of improved firefighter safety through connectivity in the brand new MSA Connected Firefighter platform. Now back to the show. I want to be clever and cute about this, but help people understand why this wouldn't be something that the Fire and Rescue Service formally do through our normal channels. in terms of capacity building and stuff like that. And again, it's a tough one for us, and we're not here to throw stones or anything like that, because everybody's busy with their own priorities and all of that sort of jazz. And I know you've had some very emotional conversations about it, and I know you've still got commitments to a lot of organizations, as we both should have. So
Yeah.
I'll put that caveat in there now, but just help us understand why this is something you guys and girls have had to do out of your own time.
I think you're right. Brigades have got their own priorities. It's a changing world. We've got to cut our cloth and all the rest of it in service. What I would say though, for Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, I've had an amazing support over the last few years from the previous chief. We've just changed chiefs again. Ross Haggart was 110% behind what I did. He's donated from SFRS tons of equipment, giving me some time off work as well. Latterly I've actually got time off work from the service to they match some of my leave to go across. So I have had that support from our service. It's a big job, and it takes volunteers to do it. It's not something I think that services could really afford to spend too much time on, but the volunteers that come off of it and get the odd week or two off work is it makes it happen.
Yeah, I love that, and the romantic in me constantly high fives that, but I know that's tough to make it sustainable, because ultimately the cost that is being paid is by your family and your loved ones as well, and it relies on an incredible amount of support and understanding from your partner and your children and everybody like that. And 90% of me admires you, and then 10% of me is frustrated that so much personal sacrifice has to go into it. But I don't know, I just struggle with that seesaw in my head all the time.
That conversation with family, it started fairly early on, that this is something that I had to do, and they kind of understand it. I think they get frustrated with me at times. I get called obsessed, but my retort to that is yes, I am. And if I wasn't, the things that we've achieved within the team, I think we're all equally obsessed, would not have been achieved had we not been that way.
But also,
for me, it's not part-time.
Everybody in your life will benefit from. Everybody in your life will benefit from that part of your character as you apply it in different elements of your life. So I always say this when people compare things. So you can't compare one slice of the pie. You've either got to take it all or you can't take any of it. You can't go, oh, I want John's successes and his adventures, but I don't want to pay any of the costs. You can't just pick part of it. Everyone likes the view, but no one likes the climb.
Yeah, and you know what? That's funny you should say that. I would say the majority of people I talk to about this that show an interest soon lose interest as soon as I say, well, if you want to come with me, you have to put your hand in your pocket and pay for the £1,400 flight over. And as soon as, what do you mean we have to pay? It goes, well, you have to pay. What do you mean? It's not funded by some big organisation? No, it's personally funded. So if you want to go out and do a car wash or get a Just Giving page or whatever, go for it. But I'm not paying for it, and there's no foundation paying for it.
Every time you have to give your money to someone else, that's money you're not giving to the project. That's the hard and tough rule that you've got to make in your head, and no one quite sees that with any organizations. And total transparency, that's a conversation you and I have had, when I'm constantly sacrificing my leave to go here and go there, and you've generously offered me opportunities to go to Nepal, and it's still something I desperately want to take you up on. But I know, but I'm also the realist where I'm like, someone will invite you a couple of times and then they'll go, this bloke's wasting my time. This person is wasting my time. So I put it out there publicly that, you've extended that, and I'm very understanding of the kind offer that is, and something that I've a real interest into doing. But I know I'm probably one example of many that has just not been able to square that circle. But ultimately, the hard truth is I'm probably not willing to pay the personal cost alongside everything else that everybody considers a priority in our own personal lives. And that's why I'm just like, yeah, I am not obviously willing to make the same level of sacrifice that John is, and that just gives me a tremendous amount of respect for what you and a lot of the other team do.
And I totally get that and respect that as well. And there's a lot of people in the background that I'd love to take out. If I got major funding from some massive company or philanthropist that wanted to come in, then I would take all my mates out and we'll go out and train together.
You wouldn't be taking your mates out of nepotism. You'd be taking them out there because you've surrounded yourself with useful people.
Good people.
As well.
I know good people. Yeah, I'm very, very lucky. I think working with Florian over the years in the past, and working with ISAR, I've length and the breadth of the UK. I've got some really good people.
You got some Avengers.
But I get why I'm obsessed with it. Why that hooks in me. I understand that, and I've got to remind myself sometimes that not everybody. There's not many people that have got that kind of connection with the country and are willing to.
Well, I think I'd say your greatest superpowers come from your scars as well, and you and other members of the team that went are carrying those mental scars. So you've got a much deeper, powerful. It's like anyone that runs an abuse, child abuse thing, or something of financial abuse or marital, domestic abuse, or whatever it might be. They had someone close to them who paid a tremendous cost. So I want to go into some of the weeds of what some of the big milestones of the project have been, some of the things that you and other people are most proud of, because like you say, it's evolved from its origin. Take us through some of those milestones and some of the things that's kind of like the from and to of what's been achieved. It is beyond a privilege to be able to bring the Firefighters podcast to you, and we are so grateful for every single person that supports, listens, shares, and follows our journey. But here's the honest truth. It takes a colossal amount of time, resources, the team, and work to keep the podcast going. And to help us keep doing it, create more, reach more guests internationally, improve the visuals, and make the podcast sustainable, we're asking for you to help. And to do this, we've set up a Patreon page. Now, by joining this, you'll not only support the future of the podcast, but also gain access to exclusive benefits. Now, if you've ever wanted to meet a member of the podcast, buy us a beer, buy us a coffee, and you think anything you've ever listened to on the podcast has been worth £3, that's basically what we're asking you for. By joining our Patreon community, you will get access to every single full episode archive we have ever made. Now, hundreds and hundreds of key documents that we've got in there on fire behavior, firefighter health, cancer risks, instant debriefs, and so much more. A growing collection of valuable resources to help you learn and grow. Now, I've only ever featured 200 episodes of the podcast on every free public available platform. You won't find the entire library because it is inside our Patreon. That is the full library legacy, and that is what you're joining for as well. So by joining the Patreon for just £3, you'll unlock everything we've ever created alongside discounts on merch like our coins, our hoodies, our patches, our tallies, and all the other stuff we're trying to crack on with doing on the podcast. Your support in whatever way, dropping it in the WhatsApp group, sharing it on the local newsletter, whatever it is, it's incredibly valuable, and we really do support it, and we need it to make it a long-lasting resource, that legacy resource we always talk about for first responders, firefighters, and everybody everywhere who's ever been interested in joining the fire service or who absolutely loves the job. Now, if you're already supporting something, as many people do, it's totally cool. You can still access the podcast for free, and you'll always be able to access all the new episodes for free. But we're asking for your help to make this sustainable. You can still listen, you can still join, you can still share it with the community. And if you want to do something free, follow us on our YouTube, subscribe to it, rate us on Spotify, whatever platform you listen to. We've reached nearly 1 million people with the podcast so far, which is just ridiculous. And we want to keep growing, we want to keep sharing the insights, and we want to keep showcasing the incredible work happening in our community and our sector every single day. So if you feel like you want to join the Patreon crew and help us make this possible, head to patreon.com/TFFPC or check the link in any episode podcast notes. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us. We'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, so over the years we've taken out, various shipments of equipment. Every shipment we've taken out has been a nightmare to get from A to B. I mean, we're talking about traveling across the globe to one of the most remotest countries in the world. The biggest thing that's happened has probably been in the last 2 years, where I was invited out to start a new fire service from scratch in the Himalayas. I went out for what was to be a scoping visit, but I ended up I ended up teaching 42 students. There started Everest Fire and Rescue Service on my scoping visit. Luckily, I took out some good people with me at the time, and it was literally 2 people I took out with me. One of them happened to be on holiday in Nepal and got a phone call from me, "I need your assistance now." and we got going with it. We got busy with it, and we started training people. We've been out. I've been out twice a year since, so that was my 4th trip. I've just come back from on Saturday to the Khumbu, which is we work basically from Lukla Airport, which is just under 3,000 metres, to now just under 5,000 metres in a village called Chukung. So we cover a lot of the Everest region. Most of the trail that people take up to base camp, most of the villages there are now covered by our firefighters that we've trained. And that is 2 years in. We've just delivered 3.5 tonnes of equipment in November, and we trained a further 166 firefighters over the 4 weeks that we were in town. Everything's done on foot these days. We started by getting helicopter trips around to villages and dropping off and teaching, and we're trying to tie in with the local climate change programme to reduce the flights. So this year I decided there was going to be no flying, we're all walking. And we're talking about walking, we're talking about 10-hour walks between villages and gaining thousands of metres of altitude. So that, going back to my achievements, my biggest achievement I would say would be starting Everest Fire and Rescue Service. Getting an MOU with the local government that Fire Aid and International Development provide the training and everything comes through us. We set up a trusteeship in the fire service. So the chief fire officer of the Khumbu, an amazing guy called Sonam Sherpa, who does everything. You think I'm obsessed, you need to meet this guy. He reports to a board of trustees. The trustees are made up from local people in Lukla, some people from the health service and some people from government. They then report to the rural municipality, which is the local government for the Khumbu. So we've got the bones of a service set up. That we've got firefighters that report to the chief reports to the trustees then report to the rural municipality.
How come Lukla is such an underinvested area? Because it's one of the main drop-off routes, isn't it? Where trekkers, serious mountaineers, lots of money travels through there all of the time.
As a rule, I try not to get involved in local politics, but I do, voice my opinion to my friends out there. As in,
somebody's making a lot of money with people going to Everest.
Mate, some people are making a lot of money. There is the richest people on this planet. The richest people on this planet walk through that street.
Yeah, like they increased the cost of, you have to get a ticket, don't you, or whatever it's called, to be able to go and climb.
Yeah.
You have to get something. I don't know what it is. It's a lot before you can even get started.
It's quite cheap actually. It's only a few quid to get into the park, to the Sagarmatha National Park. So to get onto the path that'll take you from Lukla all the way up to base camp is not that expensive.
Don't you need a permit or something to climb Everest?
You need a permit to climb Everest, yeah, and that is expensive. But you also need a permit just to get into the Sagarmatha Park, to get into the Everest sort of region. Which is
on that airstrip, you were saying like there's so many goddamn accidents that happen on that airstrip because it's a very small airstrip, isn't it? And I know when we were talking before, one of the projects was
500
around a lot of survival kit and a lot of the RTC extrication kit.
Yeah. So the Lukla airport's 500 meters and it's on an incline as well. So you arrive on the tarmac and you go up. It ends in a pretty sharp kind of cliff face. Before getting onto the runway is a severe drop as well. So you've got this little bit cut out of a mountainside that you don't have the chance to do it twice. If you muck it up, it's not pretty. It had the reputation of the world's most dangerous airport, but what I will say is since I've been there, nothing to do with me, of course, but the aviation authority have done a lot for safety for the airport. The training that now goes into landing there is immense. I think we've got to do 100 lands, watched by an experienced pilot before they can actually take charge of the aircraft. They never fly in bad weather, and much to the bemusement of tourists who may be waiting there for 2, 3, 4 days to get off of the runway now back to Kathmandu. I don't think there's been any accidents in the last year or so on the runway itself. So hats off to them. They've actually done a lot. They've worked with the local Everest Fire and Rescue Service to get running water to the bottom of the runway. So they've got hydrant systems set outside. They're doing that joint operational training now with the local fire service. They say that we delivered cutting gear and training to the fire service. So they've got that links as well with a hospital. They're now running exercises where they'll tie in with local hospital emergency department. So it's I definitely think that the safety aspect in the Khumbu, and especially at Lukla Airport, has changed in the last couple of years. And I'm just with me flying in and out of there, I've noticed a big difference, and I feel very safe.
When you were first started with it, there's only 2 aviation duty firefighters available on the airport, and they've got a 500-litre water tank with a high-pressure lance.
Still is.
Wow. So
Still
that's
is.
their airport firefighting team.
That's the airport firefighting team, but they are working with the local team as well, the local fire crew, voluntary fire crew.
That's still a bloody heavy lift. We talk about crewing levels in the UK. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Now, I know these aren't Boeing 747s that are landing there, but they're still quite sizable aircraft.
If you see Lukla Airport, it's very, very close to the town. I mean, it's pretty much in the middle of the town, or on the side of the town, but the town's very, very close. So your chances of a plane coming down, likelihood is it's actually going to land in the main street of Lukla if it was to miss the runway.
Okay. 500 litres. Talk about water pressure and water availability. You've got to be pretty clever with that. You've got to be quite cute with your branch techniques.
Yeah, big time.
Talk to me about training these firefighters, 42 firefighters. Like, what sort of stuff were you able to train them with? Because, again, you were taking out equipment, fire kit. In fact, there's a document with a review of all the actions with some great photos in it. We'll make this freely available for people if they want to click on a link underneath. Yeah. They can go and have a look at some of the stuff. But, like, what sort of stuff did you train them in?
Yeah, so the first flight out, we had sent some kit out by sea. It wasn't going to arrive there in time, so we had to fill our bags with kit. So we took out PPE, some hose and bags. Cost us an absolute bloody fortune. The cutting gear was already out there with some hose, but I wasn't prepared to run any RTC type training without PPE. So it was a phone call to the chief's office, and the chief says, "Right, don't worry about it. I'll give you enough sets of PPE." But we had to carry it out, so we spent a lot of money in excess baggage taking this stuff out on Qatar Airways. Got there.
The RTC.
Let's say we're supposed to be. No, the RTC kit was shipped out before that. The RTC kit did arrive in country before we were out there.
So you were able to get in PPE, and you started with RTC and extrication. So is this specifically built around extrication from aircraft, or just like general rescue?
So Lukla has, from Lukla, the rest of the Khumbu up does not have any roads. Everything goes on the back of people's backs, yaks, donkeys, horses. So they don't have any RTCs as such, but they do have. There has been known to helicopters come down, predominantly helicopter crashes, and some fixed wing aircraft crashes on the airport as well. So the collision training we're doing was based around our knowledge on RTCs, but involving light aircraft.
Wow. So that's a significant challenge in itself, to be able to get people with plus there's a big language barrier, I imagine, for you guys. Did you have translators out there for you?
Yeah, so we're fairly lucky. Most of the local people we were teaching spoke English to some degree, but we also had representatives from the local government that travelled everywhere with us that were really good translators. So if there was any issues, we got it translated without any problem at all. And I think firefighters, we can get by language sometimes as well.
Yeah. The team here at the podcast are extremely excited to announce our brand new partnership with Patrol Store UK. Patrol Store have been serving the UK's police, fire and emergency communities and first responder sector since 2008, providing leading brands such as Hikes, Magnum, 511, Nebo, Op Zulu, Highlander, AKU and many, many more of our favourites. They are now also supplying bespoke uniform, PPE and station workwear to fire services around the UK. So for all our listeners that are part of your USAR, your HEART team, your ISAR team, your armed response teams, your fire investigation, your NALO, your hazmat and all of the training departments that have got your own budgets, be sure to get the absolute best for your team at a realistic price by contacting Aaron and the team at Patrol Store and referencing the Firefighters podcast. Patrol Store will also be taking part in our listener competition giveaways as well as providing unique discounts to podcast listeners. So for people that are always asking about Hikes boots as an example, that is one unique discount code that is coming to you very soon through Patrol Store. We've also got some incredible bags. I mean, the Op Zulu bags are a game changer. So you know the really Gucci and expensive tactical black bags that everyone's using in CrossFit workouts and taking to the gym and taking to stations? Well, they've basically got that, but it's made better and costs less, because they're not slapping some Gucci expensive brand name on it and it's giving you what you want on a first responder salary. Be sure to keep your eyes in the notes of the episodes for links to unique offers and discount codes. And if you're looking to buy well and buy once, be sure to get in the notes and head over to Patrol Store UK. Now back to the show. How did you get this MOU put together?
So I had been working in Nepal for about 7-8 years previously to going up to Lukla, and some of the issues that we had was we would arrive, give some training, drop off kit, and then some other well-meaning people from other countries maybe come in and teach them something a bit different, or drop off some kit that was suboptimal. So I had the sit-down conversation with the local government who'd invited me there in the first place and says, if you'd like me to train your people, I will give you 10 years of my time. But here's the deal. Wow. Fire Aid and International Development will provide the training, and we will have some control over who delivers the training. So, for example, when I take somebody over, if they're leading a course, they are a trainer in that subject, they're an experienced instructor. They may have a firefighter working underneath them, an experienced firefighter, but whoever's in charge, whoever's leading is going to be an experienced instructor. The kit that goes out is going to be serviced kit, serviceable kit, and it's going to be safe. So they're quite happy to sign this MOU off that I would be there, what they call me, the training commander for the Kumbu, for Everest Fire and Rescue, and any request outside of Fire Aid would be put to myself and the Board of Trustees for consideration. It's not closing the door to people. It's not saying only Fire Aid can deliver training, but it's a degree of control over who can come into Everest Fire and Rescue and deliver training and deliver equipment. Because you know as well as I do, there can be well-meaning people that may actually cause there to be a dangerous situation, especially with equipment. And I've seen it in the past where RTC equipment's been delivered and it's been dangerous, or some training's been delivered by somebody that's not qualified and or experienced in that subject, and that can lead to putting firefighters into a dangerous situation. So thankfully they agreed to stick to the MOU strictly, which is working very well, actually, to be honest.
It must have been a really surreal thing setting up I see the photos of the temporary fire station and all the trauma care stuff that you did as well, and sorting out all the kits and the tally system that you put in place. A lot of this we just take for such granted over here, but trying to mackle something like that together and make it fit for purpose and make sure it's actually going to last the length of time, that stuff is really important. And talk to me a little bit around the trauma care element of it, because these again are really, really important life skills that you can put into a community like that.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to to procure some decent trauma kit, blast bandages, etc., tourniquets, and some really good kit actually. And I just wanted to train them in the basics to start with. You know, really basic. Stop them bleeding, keep them breathing. Nothing too advanced. And that's moving on nicely actually. And my passion in the fire service was always for trauma care as well. You know, I loved getting my hands bloody, dirty. And same in ISAR, you know, I'm a medic in ISAR, and I love that side of things. I'm fascinated by anatomy and how to preserve life. So, you know, it was a kind of natural thing for me to bring in to the fire service from the start a trauma care element. And I did, you know, I said to them at the beginning, there's no point in you being trained up to be firefighters to rescue somebody if there's nobody to help that casualty once they come out of that building or aircraft. It's really hard to get your hands on a doctor in the Kumbu. They don't have the same national health service as what we do. They've got some private clinics. Sometimes they're few and far between. So for a firefighter to have that basic trauma skills is absolutely essential, as it is in this country as well. You could be waiting for an ambulance for an hour or so or longer.
I always say, like, the future is here, but it's not evenly distributed. You know what I mean? When especially you'll see that more than anyone when you go to some of these areas and you think that you live in a 21st century world, but it's like going back in time, I'd imagine.
It really is, you know. But what I would say is they're extremely capable people, and it doesn't take me long to train them up. You know, the people that we select are, well, people that have been selected by the chief to come and train. They're all, the ones I've taught are switched on people, unbelievably. The majority of them are Everest guides, ice doctors. These people I am in awe with. When I'm standing, the highlight of my last trip there was I was standing at 500 meters briefing this crew in the morning, and I had to stop and say, look, I feel tiny compared to you guys, and they're quite small in stature, but I feel tiny compared to you. Usually that's my heroes. There's the Icefall doctors, and you know, a lot of Everest guides, and I was like, you guys are my heroes. I don't know what to say. They all kind of just smiled. You know, this is
but
the
it is that element. You know, you don't know what you don't know, and everyone can be someone else's teacher or student depending on the context, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was just blown away with the skill set that I was standing in front of. I felt really small, you know, and that's the kind of people that we've got in Everest Fire and Rescue Service. They're amazing, you know, culturally and everything. They're really special people, and I think that's why I'm really drawn back to it.
You said around, I was reading up earlier, around the elements of the culture and the importance of some of the religious and social protocols over there. Like, how did that work, as insofar as, like, what are some of the differences in, because it is a very religious community?
Yeah, highly religious community, predominantly Buddhist, and, you know, I always respect other people's opinions and religions, and it's more of a cultural thing as well, out there. And, you know, when we get the kit delivered, I make sure that the local lama knows about it and comes down to bless all the equipment, and give blessing for the course. I think that's important culturally for the Sherpa people, when the lama comes down and the monks come down and bless the equipment. And it's just something that I always bear in mind when I'm teaching.
That's crazy, isn't it? That's weird.
You know, we're sitting there with all equipment in front of us, and they're blowing horns and chanting prayers and, you know, giving everybody blessings. You know, I've never been blessed that much in my life, you know.
Good on them, but that matters, you know, and it's a really important thing to do, because, like, you'll know far better than anyone, and other people in the ISAR community, there's some mistakes that you can have a tremendous difference on success and sort of inclusion from yourselves within the community or within an organization or within the local populace, if you don't give those things the time and respect and meaning that they have to them. Because a lot of the stuff that we do in the UK, even for someone that was born in the UK, I think it's bloody weird. You know what I mean? So to go to different cultures and communities and to, seek to understand the importance that this has to people and the strength that they draw from it.
Yeah, and me going, especially up in the sort of higher mountain areas where people are, not saying that they're not religious below, because they are, but I did look into the local culture, the Sherpa culture and the traditions before I went out to get to understand them. And part of my I would say my policy, Fire Aid's policy, when we do take people overseas, we're very selective of who we take. One wrong slip of the tongue and you're out, you're finished, and you'll never get back in that area again. So it's the people I take out are culturally aware. They've been about town before. They're sensitive and how they approach issues. And for me, that's critically important to being part of my team.
If you're a regular listener to the podcast, then chances are you are big into your own personal development and the development of firefighters around you. So I wanted to remind you of our mobile app Drill Book. This is a free training and development resources made by firefighters for firefighters. Heading on to Drillbook, you will find incident debriefs, radio messages, notes and lines, quick reference guides, quizzes every single day. We've got useful links to the ERG, to Web Rescue, to Jessup, Euro Rescue, 10-second triage, National Operational Guidance, and not to mention our daily quizzes where you will find questions on extrication, casualty handling, breathing apparatus, fire development, water rescue, rope rescue, you name it. It is the go-to resource if you've got a spare 5 minutes on the firehouse to develop yourself and those around you. Not only that, if you're looking to get into the fire service, we've got advice on there on interview questions, interview answers. You can build your own questioning in there. And again, remember, this is built by firefighters for firefighters, so you can add your own drills in there. You can pick the drills that you find the most favorite. There is literally hundreds of training ideas, hundreds of drills in there. Remember, this app is absolutely free and it grows every single day down to the contributions of our thousands and thousands of users. It's freely available on Android, Apple, and you will find it in the links for this podcast. Remember, it's called personal development. The clue's in the name. You've got to work twice as hard on yourself as you do on the job. So always be growing, always be developing. Now let's get back to the show. So with regard to the stuff that we've discussed, the stuff that's been done and the stuff that's ongoing, so you set up that first fire station. Is the plans, how far are you along with the two further new fire stations and the stuff in here around working with, disaster management training teams, the armed police and...
Well, we're ahead now. I mean, we started off with Lukla and Namche. Namche is the capital of the Himalayas. It's a town that's kind of perched on the side of a cliff. Beautiful town, absolutely stunning. And I thought, we've done two fire crews. This is amazing. Since then, we have done, let me think, we've done Lukla, Phakding, Monjo, Charikurka, Namche, Dingbochi, and Chukung. So we're seven stations, 7 crews. We're up to, I think, in total about nearly 400 firefighters that we've trained.
How surreal does that feel?
It feels great. It feels really good. You basically, you're walking up the Everest Trail and you're stopping at every village. People recognise you, people know you, and they all come out and thank you for what you're doing for this community. And because when I was out there for the last month, I was travelling back and forward to many of the villages up and down the trail. And when I would come back into the villages, people would call me in for a coffee or wanted to chew the fat with me in the street, and it almost feels like home when I go back to these places, and people are kind of running out and sort of greeting me and giving you hugs and stuff like that when you come down the street. So it's a good feeling. It makes you feel good. I don't pat myself in the back and being criticised for that as well, but I do feel kind of good when I go to meet these people in the street.
You should feel proud of yourself, though. I'm proud of you. And, we've only had 10, 20 interactions together. And I'm bowled over by what you've been able to achieve. And it's not solely you, and I get that. But we can't continue to do this self-deprecating, it's not about me. No, it's not about you. But you are one of the big conduits through which a lot of this good work travels. I'm not saying you've moved every stone with your hands. I'm just
Definitely
saying.
Not. I've got some good people. Let's get some good
people.
You're not
great at celebrating each other, and that really, really bothers me. It's a very, very strange thing that we have. This, pride is the cousin of envy and ego and all of these things. And I'm just like, I think we should be more proud of each other. I'm incredibly proud of what you've done. I'm not pretending you've done it all by yourself, but somebody's got to be stupid enough to start it and then almost just like driven enough or like stubborn enough to keep pushing on
Obsessed.
with it. I mean, what are some of the big challenges that you're facing now?
So, like I said, I don't kind of congratulate myself. I don't celebrate. And one of my teammates this trip were saying, you're going to celebrate in the last night, and I goes, no, I'm going to actually start looking at going back out in April. I'm not going to celebrate. The job's not done yet. It's we're getting there, but it's not done. And we need to think about now moving on to next year. And the following year. So I can't really sit still in it. I can't rest on my laurels, because as soon as you do that, time passes, things start falling to bits, and you lose momentum. So I have to keep myself driven. I have to keep moving. Already talking about going back out in April. I'm looking for funding from various state funders and organisations, and it's tough, and sometimes it mega frustrates me how slowly sometimes things run. But keep plodding on, keep chipping away, and it's, like I said to them, it's you've got me for 10 years. I'm 2 years in. Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, well, the municipal fire service in Scotland's been around for 200 years now. I'm only 2 years into a programme, and we've got nearly 400 firefighters, so I'm happy with that. But I can't rest there, because that can easily slip away. If I stop now, things will start to slip, things will slip away.
Oh, they will. Yeah. Like you are you're the failure point as well, which is there. So how do we make this more sustainable? What are you, because the problem is with things like this is you're so busy working in the thing, it's hard to work on the thing. So what does done look like? What does sustainable look like? And for people that are listening to this and they want to give some sort of, they can stand there and clap for you and send you a bloody Instagram message and an email and say, oh, John, it's really impressive. Da, 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 da. Yeah, okay. How do people help you? What are you looking for in terms of skills, resources? Obviously, funding is a very catch-all term, but there must be barriers to who can support this and how they can support it. Like, talk to me, try and drag me into some of the detail about the challenges that you're facing.
Again, luckily with the Pasung Lamu, the Khumbu government, local municipality, they have given me the authority to go and ask for funding, ethical funding from ethical donors, to help support the fire service. So I have been, and I can't go into too much detail, but have been in contact with a couple of different state sponsors. And some big organisations. That flights for me are the hardest thing. It costs a lot of money. I'll bounce my credit card twice a year, but I can't ask that of the rest of the team.
If somebody listening to this now wanted to pay for your next flight, how much does a flight cost?
£1,400.
£1,400.
Yeah.
I 100% think somebody will give you that money.
Yeah. Well, bring it on. I've got a Just Giving page.
Yeah. That's cool. All the people that send us messages and emails and all the aphorisms and all that sort of stuff. Come on, let's get a grip. Let's. You can't take that to the bank, unfortunately, sometimes. But anyway, okay. So flights are the biggest barrier. Talk to me about kit.
Yeah, flight's the biggest barrier. We do have some logistical support from some state sponsors that help us get kit across the seas into India, and then across India, and then once it gets into Kathmandu for the Everest Fire and Rescue Service project, the local government will then fund that process from getting it from Kathmandu, which is the same height as Ben Nevis. So if you you're going in, nearly 1,300 meters, they'll take it up to Lukla at just below 3,000 meters and beyond. So they've got the buy-in. They'll fund all that kind of transport from there on in. I'm always looking for different avenues for logistics to get kit from the UK across to to Kathmandu, and things constantly change, and I have to keep looking at different avenues for that as well. So it's an ever evolving situation that, for me, is the logistics. Even getting it from a truck of kit from Aberdeen down to wherever it's going to go aboard a boat down south. That's constant, and it happens every year that things change. The logistical nightmare is forever in the back of my head.
So if we try to separate these out, in terms of getting hold of equipment, how difficult is that on a scale of 1 to 10? I know Fire Aid do a lot of resourcing equipment.
That's been fairly easy. So you've got
there is a warehouse full of stuff in the UK of X.
There's stuff floating about all over the place. So there's fire services are generally quite good at offloading their kit, serviceable equipment that's still got life in it to NGOs. So that side of things is not generally a problem. Scottish Fire and Rescue Service has been tremendous in giving us the last loadout of kit. Claire at Fire Aid, she's constantly on the lookout for kit from different services. Fire Aid have obviously got a lot of projects in the go. It's not just me. We've got Ukraine, there's Africa, there's lots of things happening in the Balkans as well. So, but we all seem to get a decent slice of that kit pie, if you like. So getting the kits generally not a problem. It's more the logistics of getting it from A to B. It can be an issue.
So with those vehicles or forms of transport, do they just need to be able to get it to the flight or the ferry or the whatever here in the UK, or in terms of fire and rescue services, donating a vehicle for a month to get it there and back or whatever it might be? Like, is there special rules around how people can help with transporting this stuff?
Not really. It's if somebody's got a haulage company, they can get in touch and we can talk and kind of what happened in the past, or I've gone to a sponsor saying, look, this is going to cost me a couple of grand to get an Arctic truck from Aberdeen to the south of England, and the sponsors come through. Yeah, we'll pay for that.
Like your DHLs and your Amazons and your people like that.
Yeah, it's a constant thing of contacting companies with me to try and get stuff moved. Let's say Fire Aid have been really helpful. Claire at Fire Aid, she's really good at kind of phoning around and getting the odd sponsor to come in, and people helping us out financially at the last second as well. So I am lucky to have that kind of that backing. Can pick up a phone and say, any chance of you phoning around to get some assistance for me. So like I said, I do have that good people that can help us out. Normally lastminute.com as well, which is really good.
So you're going out again April this year.
Plan is, the good Lord willing,
okay.
that is the plan, to get back out in April. April's a special one for me. It's 10 years since I first set foot in Nepal. So the plan is to be out there around about the 25th of April for that memorial, and to deliver training. Obviously, more importantly, to deliver training when I'm out there. And then again in November. So the windows kind of are around about these two times of the year. We don't travel in our summertime because that is the monsoon season for Nepal, and transport is fairly dicey out there and around about then. It will landslides and floods. So we stick to the beginning and the end of the year. That's when we go out.
So in terms of other services being able to support this, we've said about the sort of assurance piece about making sure people are competent and able and available and all that sort of jazz, and them having credibility and authenticity that they're not going to cause more harm than good. There's a lot of people changing hands in senior leadership teams these days. For people that have got an appetite and want to be able to support this, money's a nice, easy thing to do, it sounds like, but you know what people are like. They want to get their names and their badges on things. Like, what's the process for fire and rescue services to be able to support this in any capacity?
Yeah, so if a fire service aren't a member of Fire Aid yet, they can go on the website and they can become a partner member of Fire Aid, become part of our various projects. For somebody to come over to Nepal with me, it's a case of sending in your CV. We'll have a good chat. We'll get some references. And again, that's not to say that new firefighters can't do that either. If somebody's got the right frame of mind, I'm more than happy to take a new firefighter out under my wing and show them the ropes. For me, when I went out, I was with Operation Florian. It must have been 4 years in the job, and a really experienced sub officer at the time was Alan Davey, who'd done training department, been there, done that. And I was kind of under his wing, and do you know what? When I came back, that gave me an appetite for training. And within a couple of years, I was in training department. I never looked back. So I'm more than happy for a new firefighter to come out if their heart's in the right place. They're willing to graft. They're willing to learn. They're willing to put up with me. They're willing to put up without having any showers. Roughing it a little bit in the Kumbu. Then more than happy to take them out, mate. And I think it's a good thing, and it made me really enthusiastic about the fire service after doing the trip way back with Florian at the time. I fell back in love with the fire brigade.
Yeah, it gives you the ability to connect the efforts with an actual outcome. So often we send money abroad into Ukraine, into Africa, and to everywhere else, and realistically often we don't get to see the outcome of where this stuff lands, but the ability to connect the dots between your efforts and the finances and the logistics and all of the time away from family and work and everything like that, to see, and you've laid it out beautifully in the article, and I know people will get a comprehension from our conversation today, the growth and the impact that this has had, and then the ripples out into that community of how it will make the people in the community safer, how it will ensure their long-term health and well-being, but also people that visit the thousands and thousands of tourists that go there every single year, and the massive economic stream that comes in to support the people that live there. This is something tangible that you can literally point your finger at and say, that is the difference that this has made, and all of the people that have collectively supported it. I think it's incredible, mate.
Yeah, I tell folk that come out with me, it's just, look, you've been in the fire service for 20 years or stuff, but what you do in these 2-3 weeks will save more people in the long run than you've ever done it in the whole of your career. You're the same in training. What you do in your training department, the ripple effect that has saves more lives than you'll ever be able to save in the back of a pump.
Yeah. You'll be the person that people tell the stories about, because you've been able to make a significant impact on someone in that period of time where they really needed your help. And certainly for you to go out there and do the work that you've done, I think it's incredible, mate. So April of this year. So I'll tell you what, underneath this, we will put a link to your providers with the link for Fire Aid.
Yep.
So for services that aren't yet a member, they can go and support Fire Aid. And within that, there will be a host of options of things to support. This is just one incredible example of many of the great efforts that Claire and the team are leading on there. And then I'd also love to put a contact for yourself for either public and or private organizations to be able to contact you. What's the best place to go? Would it be an email address, or what's the best way for them to contact?
I can give you my email address. You can put that in the link. That's no problem at all.
Beautiful. Well, look, man, I know we've been trying to get this conversation together for probably a few months now, and you are just such a busy man, but please tell me that over the next few days, people won't know we're recording this just before Christmas. Please tell me you're going to give some goddamn love to that beautiful family of yours, and you're going to spend some time with those important people at home as well.
That's me. I'm now off. I'm off duty now. I'm taking some time off.
Good. Close this goddamn laptop and go and see those beautiful human beings.
Yeah, mate.
Well, man, I love you so much. Thank you so much for your time today, mate. I'm so glad we were able to do this. I still want to make it happen. I still want to come and commit that time to you guys and girls, and I'll try and bend and snap and flex any relationship I've got to try and get that over the line. But I'm sure in the absence of me, if I explode in a fireball tomorrow, nothing is going to stop you from continuing with this work anyway.
No, nothing can stop me from doing this, mate.
I love you, brother. Speak to you soon.
You too, pal. Take it easy.
The Firefighters podcast was created to recognize, acknowledge, inspire, and hopefully even motivate these incredible individuals who have chosen to be part of the first responder community. Our driving purpose is to create a legacy resource for the current and future generations of firefighters and first responders. We get some incredible feedback from listeners and guests, and as the podcast grows, our desire to create longevity and sustainability means that we are asking for the support of our listeners. If you want to support the podcast, if you want to get discounts to our merchandise, hoodies, clothing, coins, patches, towels, tallies, and also access to all of the incredible documents get shared with us from our podcast guests and sector leaders, then please head over to our Patreon page, and for just £3 a month, you can support the future of the podcast. Please finally hit that follow, subscribe, or rate button on the platform you're listening, and wherever you're around the world, please support your emergency services responders, and thank you for listening.